What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast. I am Marcus, your host. Thank you so much for being here today. It is the dog days of winter. We are right down in, what are we, like a week from Christmas? And I don't have my Christmas shopping done still. This is an issue. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by me and Denny just craving some variety in our lives. We're going to basically have like 3 different segments on today's podcast and talk about 3 completely different things. Consider it a little bit of a variety episode, but we're going to have some fun. We have a driver that we need to honor because he was given a very prestigious honor from OOIDA, which is OOIDA. That's Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association, a great association out there that any driver company driver, owner operator, independent driver can be a member of. It's really cool, and they gave Scotty Beals, driver for H&M, a really cool honor. We're going to bring him on and talk to him about that and congratulate him here in front of all you guys because it is a pretty prestigious award. We are also going to talk to Recruiter Michaela, who went to a Women in Trucking conference. We've had Michaela on the show before. She's a lot of fun. She's going to come on, talk to us about what she learned, what kind of stuff they got into out there at the Women in Trucking conference. Because, listen, I've been to, there's something that happens here every year, and it's called the Logging Conference, and it's like the Pacific Northwest Logging Conference. They bring in a lot of loggers from around the area. These guys they're the drivers of the trucks, they're the guys that are working out in the woods, they're slackline, they're doing all this crazy logging stuff. And I'll tell you something, they descend on Eugene, Oregon once per year in the fall, and come close to burning this city down every single time. Those guys can party. I've been there, okay? I got invited out once with some logger friends of mine, and let's just say the fact that I'm still here talking to you right now and not still in traction is amazing. And so that was kind of the idea behind getting Michaela on the show is like, Women in Trucking Conference, that sounds like you guys could have very professional, learn a lot. There could be a lot of really cool keynote speakers there. It also sounds like maybe if they sent you someplace fun, this might be one long cocktail party, and I want to know which one it is. So we're going to bring Michaela on a little bit later, talk to her about that. And finally, this is a really cool segment that we've dreamed up for this episode. You might remember all the way back, like 30 episodes ago, 36 episodes ago, episode 51, we welcomed a new driver to the H&M fleet. His name was Rico Gibbs. We brought him on with a very seasoned driver in Randy Duran and Denny, of course, and we let Rico pepper Denny and Randy with questions, all right? What are you having trouble with? What do you need to know more about? What kind of things can a seasoned H&M driver and a retired H&M driver help you with while you're getting started out? Well, we've invited Rico back on the show something like 8 or 9 months later to kind of revisit all this stuff because we figure he's got to have his feet wet by now. He's got to kind of be a little bit more comfortable. He had some personal things that he was concerned about and some professional things that he was concerned about, and we're just going to talk to Rico about that. Last time we talked to him, he had a very young bouncing baby boy. We're going to see how that has turned out. We're going to see if everything has gotten ironed out or smoothed out, if Rico has any points of contact that he likes to rely on if things are going wrong. So really cool that we're going to get to do a follow-up with him so many months down the road. Really looking forward to it. The last thing I have here before we get into the meat of this podcast episode is the website. You knew I was going there. I'm not joking around with you guys about this thing anymore. It's here, it's real, and you guys are using it. And we just want to say thank you first and foremost. Those of you that are utilizing the website, podcast.hmtrucking.com, we can see it, all right? We get the analytics. We know you guys are clicking on that thing, and we really do appreciate it. But we also want to tell the rest of you drivers out there that might be listening on Spotify or any of the rest of the apps that you might use, you can still listen there. We appreciate it. We love it. Majority of the drivers now are just listening through the website. That doesn't mean you have to change your mode of operation, but the one thing I will say is you might want to visit the website to check out all the cool stuff that's on there. That's where we're going to share pictures that drivers send in. If we've got recipes or anything like that, that's where you're going to find it. Once again, podcast.hmtrucking.com. Get on over there and check it out. I'm going to welcome Denny in here to the studio and get some interviews moving right now. Buckle up. We're rolling. The H&M Trucking Podcast, off and moving.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Welcome back into the H&M Trucking Podcast. This segment is a very special one to us, Denny, because, we are going to shine some light on a driver that has been driving for a very long time and was given a very important and I think distinctive award for his service to the transportation industry. So, Denny, please join me in welcoming H&M driver and friend of the podcast, Scotty Beals, back to the show. Scotty, thanks for being here, my friend.
Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Now, Denny, I sent you a picture of this the other day, but it's a pretty big deal, this award that Scotty was given from OOIDA. Now, that's Owner Operators Independent Driver Association. Is that correct, Scotty?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and tell Denny and I what this award was. I know what the surprise is, so it's not a surprise to me, but go ahead and tell everybody what you were given here just a week or so ago.
I was given the award of 35 years Safe Driving Award from OOIDA, which stands for Owner Operators Independent Driver Association. The key word in there is drivers. A lot of people are under the impression you can't be a member of OOIDA unless you're an owner-operator, and that is not the case. You can be just a driver, and you can still be a company driver, and you can be a member of OOIDA. They fight for us in Congress and Senate and everything for us at the rule makers.
Well, it sounds like a great organization established to fight for truckers, and I will say this award, 35 years of safe driving under your belt, deserves a round of applause, and I got a button for that.
Yes, sir.
Denny, as a former driver yourself, talk to me about what you see or what you think this award must maybe mean to Scotty. Of course, we're going to get his thoughts on it, but you had some thoughts when I sent you the picture of the award.
My God, 35 years, man. Yeah, you ought to be teaching people. I mean, these young guys, they don't have a clue, but you managed to do it for 35 years. My hat's off to you, Bubba.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, it's an amazing honor. And, to do any one thing for 35 years and do it well is an accomplishment. But I think what this certificate shows, Scotty, is that not only did you do it well, you passed with flying colors. You're like one of the top students in the class. I mean, how much blood, sweat, and tears has it taken of you from the last 35 years to not only be a truck driver, but be as safe and efficient of a truck driver as you are, Scotty?
I did it in the Army, too. I drove everything in the Army that had wheels. And my last 2 years in the Army, not a classroom instructor, but a driving instructor. We drove 915s and we pulled United States mail all over Europe. It took a lot of patience to be with them new students, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, teach them how to drive a vehicle that can be a gross weight of 150 to 175,000 pounds.
Wow.
So
I bet that was tough. Well, so how many years in the cumulative have you been driving? We know you've got 35 safe under your belt as a member of OOIDA, but how many years have you spent driving in general, Scott?
A little over 48.
Wow. Denny, that's crazy. 48 years behind the wheel for Scott. What comes to your mind when you hear that number?
Maybe he's older than me.
I think
Not
he
much.
might be. I think he might be just a little bit. Well, Scotty, what are you thinking? Are you thinking about hanging it up anytime soon, man, or are you just going to keep pumping miles out?
My plan is, if my health permits, my plan is go another 5 years. I'm already drawing my Social Security and still working full time, which I can do. And I draw my retirement from the military and my disability from the military. I also have a handicap placard in my truck, so I can park in the handicap area in truck stops sometimes if it's available.
That's nice. Save you a few steps there. And after 48 years of driving, I'd say you deserve it. They ought to have a guy that's driven for 48 years parking spot out there. I mean, that wouldn't be that bad of a deal. But so you obviously like it then, Scotty. After all these years, you're still talking about going for 5 more years, health permitting. You're still having a good time out there, still enjoying yourself, still like this line of work, I assume.
Yes, it's a challenge to me.
That's great, man. Well, I can't tell you how much it means that you come on here and share this with us a little bit. I want to ask you a question for all of our drivers out there that are, maybe you've just been in the seat for 6 months, maybe you've been in the seat for 6 years at this point, but you're still kind of figuring it out. I want to ask you, Scotty, with 48 years under your belt, what's a piece of advice you could give to some drivers that are just getting their feet wet right now? And maybe something that will give them a peek behind the curtain of the future of what to look forward to as they build their driving career.
If your first year will tell the tale. If you can get through your first year without having an accident and keep a clean record, stay out of trouble, you can pretty well write your ticket and go anywhere you want. I had the pleasure of me and my wife, we was a team for over 10 years. And we drove for a company called Tri-State Motor Transit, which over there you've got to have a secret or a top secret security clearance from the Pentagon to pull loads over there. And we do classified work over there, and we haul to military bases and we haul to the nuclear power plants as well.
Oh, cool. So that first year is kind of what you're concentrating on. If you're a new driver right now, you're going to say, listen, get that first year under your belt, get it there safely with no accidents, and get your delivery on time. And if you can get through that gauntlet, Scotty, you're saying you can pretty much drive anywhere you want? Pretty
well. Some trucking companies like H&M requires you to have 2 years with a clean driving record. But if you can get through that first year, because you're going to be on pins and needles some the first year.
I bet, man. I don't understand just knowing what you guys do day to day, how you're not still on pins and needles 48 years later, Scotty, but I guess you've probably seen just about everything there is to see out there at this point.
Well, no. When you get to that point of where you think you are a professional, I'm still an amateur. When you get to be to the point of a professional and think you know everything, that's when stuff's going to happen to you.
Yeah, that's when the world's going to humble you. Well, Denny, I want to kick this over to you real quick. Scotty's advice there, get through that first year. How does that resonate with you and what you experienced? And also give us the same piece of advice from Denny that you would give to somebody in their first year.
Well, that's one of the first things my instructor told me when I got in the truck was that, when I hired on, my original company was Werner. And one of the first things he said to me was, you think you're a truck driver, but you're not a truck driver for a good year. And that's about what it takes. You got to get your feet wet. You got to learn how to do it. You got to learn the lifestyle. You have to learn, your rhythm. Everybody does it a different way, but you have to learn what works for you. And if you can get that first year under your belt and do it safely and have that good on-time delivery record and pickup record, then, yeah, you can go just about anywhere. H&M has a little bit higher standards than some, and it's worth it to get on with H&M. But, yeah, that first year was tough. After that, it got easier. That's absolute fact.
Mm-hmm. What was the hardest part about your first year, if you don't mind me asking, Denny?
Working for Werner.
Okay. Yeah, and listen, not the first driver to tell us that on this podcast, and we don't want to say anything ill about the company. Look, it's a great company, it's a big company, but Denny, I know that it was a little rough.
It's what they've positioned themselves in the market. It's, I think, what it is. Once you get a little experience under your belt, if you don't have a dedicated lane or you don't want to be a trainer, you need to move on.
Okay.
I was lucky to have a dedicated lane for a big chunk of my time with Werner, but that they lost that account, so I had to go back on the road, 48 state, and I didn't want to be a trainer. I had no desire to be a trainer. I just wanted to go do my thing. So, yeah, the writing was on the wall. I needed to move on and find somewhere else. But if you want to be a trainer, you might have a great career with Werner. It just wasn't for me.
Sure, I got you. How about you, Scotty? You've talked about some of the challenges, and you've talked about them in past interviews on our podcast here about some of the challenges that you had overseas when you were delivering mail and running things for the military. Take me to your first mainland United States trucking job. What was kind of the hard adjustment thing in that first year for you?
The hardest thing for me was to get adjusted to pulling a 53-foot trailer with a cab over truck.
And that differed quite a bit from what you were towing over in Europe, yeah? Yeah.
We had 915s in Europe. Had a 400 big cam Cummins 16-speed Caterpillar transmission, semi-automatic. Your clutch was accelerator. You didn't have no clutch, but you had a gear that the gearbox looked like teeth sticking out there.
Uh-huh.
And most time when I got through with my third or fourth student, my truck was going to the shop for a new transmission.
Grinding a few gears, were they?
Yeah. That Caterpillar transmission behind that Cummins, if you didn't get it right, it would tell you about it because you'd have to stop and start all over.
I bet. So adjusting to the differences in the truck, you were driving a cab over back then, which had its own challenges as it was. What did you like more? Were you more partial to the 915s, or did you start to kind of find the love for those cab overs and the 53-footers when you got back?
Oh, I didn't love it. At first, I didn't love the 53-footers. They had what they call ducktail. Okay? When the 53-footers first came out, you could slide your tandems, to my opinion, too far up underneath the trailer. So you had that ducktail. When you made a left-hand turn, you had to watch out for the right-hand part of the trailer because the rear of the trailer would reach over there and grab a car on the right-hand side. We called that the ducktail.
Uh-huh.
When I first started driving for Schneider, I already had my CDL. That's when the CDLs first came into play in 93.
Mm-hmm.
And I took my test on my own and got past it. And I went up there to Green Bay, Wisconsin, to the skid pad up there. And we got out there. We got past all the paperwork and everything. We got out there to the, they called it the pad, where they taught you how to back up and everything. I asked them, I said, am I going to be pulling a 48-foot or am I going to be pulling the 53? Well, you're going to be pulling the 53 more than anything else. I said, okay. I don't want to train on a 48-foot. I want to train on a 53. Oh, they was laughing and snickering and everything like that. They said, oh, we got one. We got one. So they went and got a 53 and brought it back over there. And I had to go through the Serpentine, back through the Serpentine. Then I had to do a 45-degree alley dock. And, straight line back for 100 feet. 50 to 100 feet, I think it was. Might have been 100 feet. So anyway, I got past all of that, and the guy said, well, you're ready to take your third-party driver's test. We're authorized to do Arkansas's driver's test up here. I said, does the CDL look like this? You just won yourself 4 days off. You get to sleep in the motel and do what you want to do and spend those Schneider dollars.
We
got
great.
coupons. We got coupons for eating while we was up there. Plus, we got paid a salary, and we got paid for the hotel room while we was up there.
So it wasn't that bad. It was a little bit bumpy at first. You had to figure out that thing with the back tandem there, but you acclimated to it pretty fast. It sounds like, especially when you got 4 days off right out the gate.
Yeah,
That's awesome, Scotty. Well, listen, we appreciate the time with you here. I want to give you a few more minutes to talk about what this award from Owner Operators Independent Drivers Association means to you, Scotty, because you have come on this show many times before in the past, and OOIDA is something that you like to bring up here for good reason. As you said before, they advocate for drivers. They're a very good organization, and they want things to stay safe out there too, and that's why they're giving awards out to people like yourself. So when you got that phone call and were told that you were going to be receiving this commendation, what was going through your head, Scotty?
It was an honor and a privilege to do what I do. And I'm going to go back a little bit. When I was on the farm back in Arkansas, that's where I actually learned how to drive. I started working when I was 6 years old. And no, my dad did not own the farm. I was a poor. We didn't even know where our next meal was coming from. So, but my boss man, Mr. Duke, Benny Duke, he said one day, he says, Scotty, your dad hasn't got anything, and he's down in his back. I said, yeah. Your uncle is a drunk. And he said, is that what you want out of life? My advice to you, if you want to drive a truck, go to the military and have them teach you how to drive a truck and then get out. Well, my plan was I was going to stay in the military for 6 years. Well, that got changed. I ended up staying for 22 and a half.
I was going to say, I thought you were in there for a couple decades, if my memory served right. So that was a pretty big change in plans, huh?
Yeah, big change in plans. But they taught me a lot how to drive a truck. But I still wasn't a professional, even when I joined up with Schneider National. Schneider National, I got a dedicated route. I worked for a company called Chet Pallets. They made Chet Pallets in Concord, Arkansas, which was right down the street from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did Chet Pallets for close to 2 years with Schneider. And they killed that account, so that account stopped. And so I decided I always wanted to own my own truck. So I bought an old Prime truck out of Springfield, Missouri, and signed it on with Schneider. And I wasn't used to a truck having speed like that one had. Back then, Prime drove one way, flat on the floor. And they had to be there like yesterday. So I ended up with, I think it was 3 or 4 speeding tickets.
Oh, wow.
Schneider called me down there to Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where most of the owner-operators was out of back then. And he told me, he says, you get one more speeding ticket and your lease will be canceled. Do you understand me? So, yeah. That was about the time I signed up with Miss Tina, and me and Miss Tina ran together as girlfriend and boyfriend, and then she just brought it up to me one day. She said, I failed with Schneider. I said, yeah, I know. Okay. She said, I'd like for you to train me how to drive. I said, well, it's going to be hard training you how to drive. I'm your boyfriend. She said, well, you did it in the Army, so you can do it. Well, okay. Now, I'm going to be tough on you sometimes. And the first project, I had to teach her how to shift without the clutch. You don't shift with the clutch, especially when you're an owner-operator. That saves on your clutch.
Mm-hmm.
They taught her in Schneider how to double clutch. I don't like that. So the only time you need the clutch is start and stop. That's it. She became my team partner. I asked Don Schneider himself. I said, is that going to change my insurance? He says, no, but you're going to be responsible for her. I said, okay. So she never had an accident. She was a good driver. We hauled explosives, ammunition, and classified. We call it the funny stuff. It's actually called the Yellow 7. Denny knows what I'm talking about. So we hauled that for over 10 years as a team, and she got down in her health, so she couldn't get past physical anymore. So now it's just me and Angel out here. Do it. Angel, Clyde, and Spock.
And those are your pets, right?
Well, Angel is my dog, and Clyde is a stuffed gorilla, full size.
That's right. I remember Clyde.
And my daughter says I have an imaginary dragon that rides on top of my truck for safety. His name is Mr. Spock. And then I'm the Jughead from the Archies.
Ah, gotcha. Oh, just a whole cast of characters riding in that truck then.
Yeah.
That's great, Scotty. Well, it's funny to hear you talk about how you had some trouble with speeding tickets earlier in your career, and now 35 years later, you're sitting here holding the certificate of 35 years of safe driving. It's pretty cool to see that change over time. You kind of got your act together and decided, I'm going to do this the right way. And all that time and effort invested in that. Now you've got something to hang on your wall to show for it. And it's pretty cool. I really appreciate you coming on here today just to chat with us in general, but also to let Denny and I pat you on the back a little bit, man. Felt like you really deserved your moment in the sun here. And Denny, I think you kind of echoed that sentiment when we were talking earlier.
Absolutely, man. That is an accomplishment. That's not a piece of paper to stick on the refrigerator. That's one to get a mat and a frame on and be proud of for the rest of your life.
Yes, sir.
And I got stickers on my goes on the side windows of my truck. It says Safe Driving Award 35 years. So
wow. And that's like walking around with a heavyweight title belt, I would think, in the world of trucking, because there's probably not too many guys that have got 35 years of safe driving under their belt. You know, you can't predict it. Maybe it wasn't their fault. Maybe somebody pulled out in front of them or slammed on the brakes in front of them. That type of stuff can happen every day to anybody. And to know that you are aware enough out there, Scotty, and you got your head on a swivel and have kept that stuff from happening to you, just really commendable, my friend. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, not only for coming on the podcast and sharing as much time with us as you do, but for bringing my attention to things like this, because, you know, this wasn't something that came from H&M. This is something that came from OOIDA. And had you not told me about it, we wouldn't have known, and we wouldn't have been able to bring you on the podcast here and give you your flowers for such a big accomplishment, Scotty. So thank you very much for just keeping in touch with me, man. I really enjoy our conversations, and you and I have quite a few of them.
We do. And I'm not one to think I'm better than any other driver. That's not my point. I'm still an amateur. I still learn stuff all the time. But sitting in the cab of this truck, watching other people, a lot of times Denny will say the same thing. You can predict what somebody's going to do by the way they drive their car.
Absolutely.
Or now with the big trucks, we've got stupid people out here doing stupid stuff. So,
well, keep your head on a swivel for the next 35 years, Scotty. One heck of an accomplishment here. Thank you again for giving us an opportunity to chat with you a little bit about it. Make sure, you know, I know you're a humble guy. I know that, and I know you would never say that you're better than any man to a person. But if somebody congratulates you on that sticker that's in your window now, go ahead and puff your chest out and accept that congratulations, all right? Because you deserve it.
Thank you.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
No problem, Scotty. Before we let you go, I want to clear some space for you for any final thoughts that you might want to share with us before we leave. And of course, you know I'm going to ask to hear that famous sign-off that you've done on this podcast so many times. So the floor is yours, Scotty Beals. Thank you so much for being here. Anything else for us?
Well, some of us older drivers with H&M, I'm probably going to step on somebody's toes. Right now, we're in the wandering phase. For us older drivers with H&M, we get more pay than other newer drivers comes on with H&M. And that is a question that we have, some of us older drivers, is are they going to try to find a reason to send us down the road? So because they can make a lot more money with them newer drivers, paying them less to do the same job that we do. So we're in that question phase.
I hear you. Well, listen, I don't want to speak for anybody at H&M because I am just the podcast host. But the one thing I'll say is that they might save some money bringing on some newer drivers, Scotty. But the amount of headaches you guys, you older tenured drivers, probably save the entire staff just through your experience and the fact that you're committed to doing this job in a safe and effective way. Man, I don't know if you can put a price on that, Denny. Those headaches that come from all of that misorganization and new drivers trying to figure things out, I can't imagine that would make things any easier on them. Might make the bottom line look a little better for a few months, but if you're walking around bald because you pulled all your hair out, did you really gain anything there? So, like I said, not speaking for the company at all, just one man's opinion, but I think you tenured drivers there, Scotty, are a big reason that H&M is as successful as it is.
Well, Terry said this. I will pick on him just a little bit. He said, when I go on midnight shift or second shift, he said, I can tell my drivers on my board, you guys don't call in. You guys figure it out, get it done, and go on. If you do call in, it's a real serious problem. So,
well, it sounds like you guys have quite the relationship there, and maybe one of these times in the future we'll get you and Terry on here on the same time. We haven't talked to Terry very much on the podcast, but I know he's a well-liked dispatcher out there, and it would be cool to have you guys on here at the same time to get a little peek behind the curtain of what that relationship's like.
He kids me all the time. I say, well, haven't you found my pink slip to fire me yet? No, I'm still looking.
All right, Scotty, well, hit us with that sign off. We'll let you get back to it, okay?
May the good Lord be with you wherever you may travel. You be well, be safe. As Spock used to say on Starship Enterprise, live long and prosper, my friends.
There we go. That's Scotty Beals, H&M driver and owner of an OOIDA certificate for 35 damn years of safe driving. Congratulations again, Scotty, and thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Now, thank you guys for what you do here, do for us drivers. You kind of put a smile on our face, and we enjoy it. Makes the miles go a little bit faster.
Well, we love doing it. Well, I won't speak for Denny. I haven't had a one-on-one with him since they forced him to start working with me. So I'll tell you, I'm having a great time in here. I think Denny's doing all right once in a while. So we appreciate you, Scott, as always. Thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
See you later, Jarhead.
Take care, Bubba.
You bet, sir. Bye now.
Bye-bye. All right, welcome back to the H&M Trucking Podcast. I've got Denny Stone here with me, and joining us as well is Recruiter from H&M Trucking, Michaela Monjaraz. No, wait, I mispronounced it. I'm not supposed to pronounce the J. Damn it. Monjaraz, right? Monjaraz. Okay, and I even had the inflection wrong, too. Damn it, Michaela. I'm sorry I butchered your name. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's good to have you here. Now, we're bringing you on for kind of a little segment here because this is kind of a standalone deal. I understand that you recently attended the Women in Trucking Conference. Is that true?
Yes, I did. I just went on November 9th through the 13th in Dallas, Texas.
Okay, so you were down there in Denny's neck of the woods a little bit. What'd you think of Texas? You been down there before?
I've actually rarely been to Texas. I think I was in McAllen, Texas in high school for a mission trip, and that's about it.
Okay, so are you a fan of Texas? Let me ask you that. I promise Denny isn't staring daggers into the camera right now.
I mean, from what I saw, it was nice. We just didn't get to really explore that much, so it's definitely somewhere I'd want to go back to.
Okay. That's good to hear. I'm going to ask you this next question. It's purely a Texas question. Again, Denny's not judging your response, if you believe me.
Lies.
Do you like beans in your chili?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Did you know down in Texas they just do like meat sauce? They don't put beans in their chili down there?
Well, then that's not chili.
Denny, do you have anything to say?
You're trying to drag me into an argument, aren't you?
That's just meat sauce. I don't understand.
Yeah, just in case it's not readily apparent, I've been on Denny's case about this for a few weeks now since one of our drivers came on and shared a great chili recipe with us, but I don't think we're ever going to convince him. He's pretty set in his ways at this point that chili does not have beans.
Okay, chili was invented in Texas. I'll start with that. And the original name was chili con carne, which means meat with pepper. Okay? So it doesn't say anything about frijoles, which are beans.
Okay, I believe you.
Hey, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm not going to mess around with it at all. I will tell you,
Nope.
I think I might have mentioned this to you, Denny, but you know Nally chili, right? It's not really that great. It's cheap. It's like $1 a can. Well, on their jar, it says chili con carne with meat and beans. So it says chili con carne, and then in English down below, it says with meat and beans. And I did realize that actually translates to chili with meat and beans. So that must give you a little bit of extra meat and beans. I don't know. All I know is that you're never going to crack that can of chili, Denny, and I probably should move on.
That's good for clearing out your intestines if you've been constipated or something.
Yeah, I think I'm probably okay not having the beans. I think the beans is probably what hurts my stomach the most. So
okay.
I think I'd be fine just eating the meat, to be honest.
So now me and my famous Thunder from Down Under 3-bean chili are the only one that thinks that chili has beans in it now. I've just backed myself into a corner.
I've switched over.
I made Yankee chili yesterday, actually, because my brother-in-law's here and Dawn likes it with beans, so I made chili with beans, and I've taken shit from everybody I've talked to on the phone today because of it.
And I didn't even tell Denny we were bringing this up, too, so we're just piling on here when he's already been dealing with it. So I will apologize and move on from the chili thing. I'm glad that you got to go down to the Women in Trucking Conference, Michaela.
Dallas is not an accurate representation of Texas, okay? You got to get outside of Dallas-Fort Worth to see Texas. I'll leave it at that.
I believe you.
Okay. All right. I believe that, too. And, I mean, such a garbage football team that plays in that city anyway. I would hope that you wouldn't want to be there. You know, if you don't have to.
God,
I'm
sorry.
I'm really piling on Denny now.
You know, just because those Ducks are doing good this year, you got an attitude.
I know. It's bad, Denny, and I can't control it. So I will focus up here and ask Michaela the questions we actually brought her on to ask her about the Women in Trucking Conference. Because if anybody can take a Women in Trucking Conference conversation and turn it into a conversation about chili and football, it's me. And I don't want to do that today, but I've already done it for about 5 minutes. So talk to me about the experience at the conference. What was it like? Like, it's obviously you said it was in Dallas, but how does it work? I'm wondering because a lot of times, Michaela, people tell me they go to conferences and then you hear the stories from these conferences and I'm like, you guys just hung out at an open bar and drank the entire 4 days. Was that like this experience or were you going to kind of TED Talks and that type of thing? What was it like?
Honestly, I mean, there was tons of women, and it wasn't just women. There were men too, but tons of women from all over. They had a bunch of different activities pretty much every single day that you could do. The biggest thing was there was 150 exhibitors that came in. I mean, all the different trucking companies, Prepass, Tenstry, all the different things that we use, you know, so they're trying to sell their product. So we got a lot of swag, a lot of random crap, you know, chapsticks and stretch balls and all those things. So, and then they did like a little contest with that. If you got the sheet signed by like 90 exhibitors, you got your name into a drawing at the end. So there was a lot of little incentives to do to win prizes. So I think that was kind of helpful for a lot of people to make sure, you know, they're making the rounds and talking to everybody. And then obviously they had a bunch of different speakers. And then they had different like breakout sessions that you could take based on what you were interested in. So it was me, Brenda, and Lindsay. And obviously, Brenda and Lindsay are in the operation side, and I'm in recruiting. So all the ones that I did were all recruiting, retention based type of talks. So, some of them I got some things out of. I would say the best one I did was more like an intimate, interactive roundtable where we actually there was like a group of maybe like 30 people in the room, and we all sat at tables and had a different topics that we talked about when it came to recruiting and retention and social media. So that was really nice. And there was a couple of, it kind of opens your eyes to who's a good speaker and who's not a good speaker, because who's going to, keep your attention. Because there are some sessions where you're like, I don't know why this person, a public speaker, because it's not great. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking to that many people, and, people that are pretty much, you can tell people were still working, on the phone, checking emails, taking phone calls. And you really, if you're up there talking to this many people, you have to really be keeping the interest, and you have to walk around, you have to project your voice. There's just a lot of different things, so some were better than others, but overall I thought it was pretty good. The hard part is you have to keep in mind it is a bunch of women, so when it does come to some of those times when you are trying to interact, when they had I would say like the cocktail nights, or they had like receptions and things, a lot of people were really just kind of cliquey with the people that they came with. So I would say that was a lot harder to kind of, talk to a bunch of people and network.
Sure, sure. Now, you mentioned that there was some men at this conference. Were they cowered in the corner, or did they actually take part?
Funny enough, so some of the panels that we had, there were like either 1 to 2 men on it. And it was kind of funny because in one of the panels, we were talking about retention and things. And this girl that was sitting next to me, every time this guy spoke, she kept rolling her eyes. Because he was like so excited, like you could tell he wanted to talk, like every question there was, he wanted to answer. And so you could tell, I was like kind of looking around to see the reaction from the women. Some of the women are just like rolling their eyes like, okay, dude, like we get it. You know what you're talking about, but like, this is a women in trucking. Like, let the women talk.
As a brave guy, I got to say, to walk in there and have your hand up first at that conference as a male, you're either bold or stupid, or maybe it's some kind of mix of the two, but that's funny. I love hearing that because, it's like, what are you going to be able to say here that's going to add to the Women in Trucking conference? I can't wait.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And like we did have one of the groups that I went to was the allies, so men being allies for women. So most of that panel was men. And then there was one woman, and they kind of talked about the different perspectives of being allies with women in the trucking industry.
Are Denny and I worthy of being your allies, Michaela? What did you learn in that particular roundtable, or learn things to look out for, things to keep on your mind when you're recruiting? I just want to make sure that Denny and I could be allies for the women that we work with, because we have a lot of women from H&M on this show, and I figure even Sherry might put up with me a little bit better if I became an ally. So can you help me and Denny figure that out at all?
Absolutely. So some of the best things are basically just asking women what they need and trust what they say. And that's a really big thing. I feel like sometimes men are kind of scared to ask women what they want, and most women are okay to tell you exactly what's on their mind. But when a woman says what she wants, you just got to make sure to listen and trust what she's saying is what she means. And then obviously another big thing is, being able to speak up for somebody that they might not be in the room. So say there's a decision being made, but there was a woman that it might pertain to her, but she's not in the room. So don't be afraid to, speak up for that person, even when they're not in the room.
Got it. Okay. So, and that seems like a pretty good thing to keep in mind regardless of gender, right? Like if you're speaking for somebody that's not in the room, you should maybe bite your lip for a second and see if that person actually wants their opinion shared.
Absolutely.
I like it.
Absolutely.
I like it. So maybe on that note, Denny, we're not the best allies because I never shut up. And it would seem that I probably speak for a lot of people on this podcast. I don't know. When was the last time you asked your wife what she wanted and listened to her?
I learned this years ago. This was my ex-wife that I learned this lesson. Now, I'll preface this by saying I'm a redneck Texas Marine, so it took me a long time to learn this whole Mars-Venus thing. She would come home mad about work or something, and apparently you're not supposed to go down and throw the boss up against the wall and have a come to Jesus meeting with him. You're just supposed to sit there and care. You're not supposed to fix shit. It took me a long time to learn that lesson.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Absolutely.
Was the fix
We don't want you to fix our problems. We just want you to listen.
And you couldn't do that either, which is why she was ex-wife number 2, correct?
That's a whole story for another day.
Okay, all right. We won't get too deep. They
did say that men are 3 times more likely to talk over a woman than a man.
Interesting.
I believe that.
I'm an equal
Especially
opportunity
Marcus.
offender here. I'll just talk right over the top of anybody. What'd you say there, Denny? I was talking.
She heard me.
Yeah. It's okay. So, Michaela, tell me this. Based on your experience this year, is this something that you would be interested in going back to if the company was wanting to send more women maybe next year?
Yeah, I think it would be good to maybe go back with someone like Eve. I think the hard thing for me is that I'm not the decision maker. So there might have been a lot of opportunities for different things that we could use in the company because, she makes the decisions on a lot of those tools that we use when it comes to recruiting and onboarding and all those different things. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really a part of that. So I felt like it was hard to there was 150 exhibitors. So I was like, I don't know, maybe we could use this. Maybe and so you take people's cars and they kind of explain things to you. But I'm like, I don't know if we can benefit from this or not. So I've kind of actually had a conversation with James about it. And it was something he was actually more interested even maybe going to or trying it again with a couple different people.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm assuming you're going to make sure he's not wearing all black with a white snakeskin belt if he does go back to that conference. I don't think they're probably going to welcome him in looking like that. I saw a video of you guys dressing him down for the way he looked the other day, and I felt like he heard it. I really felt like he took some advice from you guys.
It was just so bizarre. We just could not get over it. For someone that dresses so casual every day, besides the loafers, obviously, and he doesn't wear a belt, and we just know he doesn't wear a belt. And then all of a sudden, he just decided, boom, let's wear a snakeskin belt out of nowhere. You're like, what?
Yeah, Danny, I might get
it was just a little harsh on the eyes.
I might get my ass in a sling with James for even bringing this up on the podcast. But I got a video sent to me from Jackson, and it was like the whole recruiting team standing across the room from James, dressed head to toe in black with a white snakeskin belt and coiffed like gelled hair. And you guys must have the best relationship with James in the recruiting department because the way you guys were telling him that it wasn't working was not like tongue-in-cheek and it wasn't like thinly veiled behind like we want him to still be happy with us. It was like, this doesn't work. This is why. Don't do it again type of vibes in there. And and he was, I could tell by the look on his face, he was hearing you and he was thinking, man, I got to make some changes. I can't go all black everything.
The question I have here is this reverse sexuality thing? Because, ladies don't like you looking at their boobs, but they're looking at his belt, which is...
He lifted it up, okay?
Lifted what up?
He wanted us to see the belt.
Okay.
Shirt a little bit.
Denny. Normally I'm the one.
We normally just lift up our shirts and be like, look at our belt. Look at this cool belt. You guys would be like, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, normally I'm the one running my mouth in here. I did not expect Denny to take us down that road, but you make a well, it's a point. You make a point. All right, Michaela, it's always fun having you on here. Thank you so much for being here with us and talking us through the Women in Trucking Conference. As always, want to make some room for you to say any final thoughts or anything that you wanted to add that you didn't get to, or maybe just a message for our drivers out there. The floor is yours.
The last thing I wanted to say is, the biggest, honestly, takeaway that I got was about the culture of the company. Just from that conversation that we just had about James, just remember why you love H&M and why everybody else loves H&M. We're very down to earth. We're very approachable people. Listen, we talk to the president that way. You can come in, you can talk to us. So that's just really important. We want to keep the culture like that. And obviously, the drivers are the ones that help us keep that culture that way. You're not just a truck number, you're a person. We want to get to know you. We want to know all sorts of things. Anything you want to tell us. And, if you want to know stuff about us, we'll tell you too. So I just want to, make sure it's important that we all just keep those lines of communication open. And, I love those friendships that I've made with all the drivers. So it's just important. And I want to keep the culture of the company going.
Well said, and a great culture it is at H&M Trucking. We get to profile it here on the show very frequently. And again, Michaela, just really appreciate your time here on the program with us. You're always welcome. So if you want to have one of those, moments on the show with James where you talk about his wardrobe and you just want to do that live here on the program, Denny and I would totally be up for it. So just really,
that would be amazing.
Yeah, let us know, because if we can talk James into it, we can set something like that up, and we might be able to just fib to him a bit about what we're talking about. Like, hey, James, we want to talk about leadership or something, and then it's just you guys talking to him about his dress code. That for me sounds really exciting. I don't know about you. But.
Just roasting him in whole episode, that would be my dreams.
And then we can all hit the unemployment line together on Monday. That sounds like a great plan.
Pretty much.
All right, Michaela, you take care of yourself. Have a great weekend, and we'll be in touch with you, okay?
You too. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, welcome back into the H&M Trucking Podcast. Denny and I have a very special guest joining us now. We're doing kind of a part 2 of an interview that we did back on episode 51, Denny, and I'm going back into my my log here, and it looks like episode 51 of the H&M Trucking Podcast aired on March 20th, 2024. It was called Sage Advice because we had driver Rico Gibbs join us along with very seasoned H&M driver Randy Duran. And Rico was new to the squad, and we just had him throw out some questions, some things that were maybe stumping him a little bit. And we wanted to follow up with Rico and see how things are going now that he's got all these months under his belt. We're almost a year removed from that podcast. So please welcome back to the H&M Trucking Podcast, Rico Gibbs himself. Rico, I know you're out there right now cruising around out in the state of Iowa with some high winds, but we really appreciate you joining us, man. Thanks for being here.
No problem.
One of the first things that you brought up the last time we had you on with Randy is that you were a little bit confused with the settlements, making sure that your pay was right, making sure that everything was ironed out there. There was a little bit of confusion. Randy and Denny both told you a good person to talk to, but I just want to know from your perspective, Rico, how that ironed out for you. Do you feel like you've kind of got your thumb on the settlement issues and things kind of figured out there now?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, I get it. Every so often there's some, there's some I have like some discrepancies, which I'll call and ask for them to explain it before I go to my next initial reaction or thought before I overreact. So I would give me clarity on this. All right. Or if there's not on the settlement, I'll wait to the pay stub come out and see if it's on the pay stub. And I'll compare the two. And, before I go and call and, hey, why is this isn't here, X, Y, and Z, I have to do my due diligence and check first. But so far, so good. I don't have any issue.
Gotcha. Great. And I know, is it Ashley that you're dealing with mostly on that when you call the office, or are you talking to Jamie? Who is it that you're kind of dealing with if you do have a question?
The last person I think it was Ashley that helped me lately.
Okay. Perfect. And that
The
was going
last
to be
time I called in, yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be who I thought was probably your point of contact there on it. So just for any new drivers that might be listening, Ashley's the one to call. She's dealing with payroll and super friendly, Ashley, too. Really easy to talk to. So if you're having trouble with that, it looks like, that's good advice, though, Rico. And Denny, I want to get your thoughts on that. Rico's saying, look, I got to do some math. I got to do some due diligence before I get too hot under the collar about this stuff. Probably a pretty good idea. Keep your relationship steady, I would assume, Denny.
Well, yeah, you call and holler at those ladies, and they're not going to be real likely to want to help you. Lorraine was the one I was a pain in the ass. I always called Lorraine, and she was always so sweet and so helpful. And I always told her, I said, look, I know y'all work really, really hard to make sure everybody gets their money as soon as possible. But, if you don't get if you don't get it on this week's check, it's not that big a deal. I'm not one that lives paycheck to paycheck. And I know they appreciate that because a lot of drivers are. I mean, they need that money as soon as they can get it. And these ladies work hard to get it to you.
Yep. They really do. They really do. Well, I'd love to get Lorraine on the podcast sometime to figure out what exactly it felt like to have a Denny-shaped pain in the ass. But I have some experience with that as well, so I can speak to that if anybody ever wants to know.
Yeah, but you don't have a Gilly to bring in. I don't need anymore either. Damn it. I can bring Gilly in and smooth things over.
There you go. Well, Rico, thanks for that. I'm glad to hear that that's kind of gotten cleared up for you a little bit, and that you have a point of contact there that you're comfortable with. The next thing that you brought up, you detailed a pretty bad experience that you had when you were first starting out, taking a job in trucking with another company, and we don't need to call out that other company's name this time because we did on the last episode, but they were running you around, man. And I think you said that you were out on the road for between 3 and 4 weeks the first time or before you ever got to go home. Months. Oh, wow. Okay. So 3 or 4 months before you got to go home. That was something that was a high priority for you. You have a newborn at home when we talked to you last time, and you wanted to make sure that home time was something that you got to come by pretty often so that you could spend some time with that baby. Talk to me about this 7 months down the road. How's it looking for you?
Oh, it's getting more stressful. I thought that, 15 months actually, and just a Sonic the Hedgehog of a child. So my girl she's stressing me out because she wants me home more because she needs help. And which I understand, and I can't really do anything about that because the industry is already built how it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find a middle ground where everyone's happy, but she's not going to be happy till I'm local, which is probably never going to happen. So I guess we're at where we're at now. But when I do get home, I spend as much time as I can with him. But home time is decent. I try to make enough money where I can what's the word I'm looking for? I can stay an extra day or two without it hurting the bank for bills and X, Y, and Z. Because I got to put food in the house and food in the truck, which is like a double grocery bill, which is insane. But that's just what it is now.
Sure.
But as far as home time is, I try to work as much as I can. Drive most of my hours. There are days where I drive 6-7 hours, but for the most part, I would say 80 to 85%. I'm driving 10 plus. Well, I'd say 9.5 to 10 hours a day. So try to get there early, get some more runs. So when I go home, I can have that extra day or extra 2 days to spend with him before I come back on the road.
Perfect. That's great, man. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like you've been able to kind of work yourself into a system that works out well because obviously we want to see you making enough money here that you can put food on the plate because you told us that your son there was almost as big as like a 7-year-old that you had running around the house there too, and that was all the way back in March. I imagine if he's a Sonic the Hedgehog of a child, like you said, he's probably got quite the appetite.
Oh yeah. I think he only ate baby food for a month. Then he moved to actual food.
Wow.
And his 10-year-old brother, he's half his size.
Wow, man. So, football player,
Yeah.
basketball player, baseball player. What are you thinking, Rico? Maybe a weightlifter. What are you kind of grooming him for at
Well,
this point?
if I had a choice, you probably haven't ever heard this. If I had a choice of where he goes and it would happen, I would tell him to be a cricket player because it's the highest playing sport in the world.
That's a good
But
point. They pay a lot of money to those dudes.
yeah, but everyone seems to think he's either going to be like a football or some type of sports because he's going to be big.
Mhm.
I don't really care what he does if in sports, but I just want him. I think when he's 4 or 5, I'm gonna put him in martial arts. If he does it as a profession, hey, cool. But I just want him to have those tools to survive when I'm not around to protect him. So
That's smart, man. And he'll get such a head start as far as the shape that he's in, doing that type of activity, doing anything on a mat like that, any kind of martial art.
yeah,
He'll start to get into a shape that is just athletic from a young age, which is really cool to hear.
exactly. And kind of like how I was, because I know when I grew up in martial arts as well. So they teach you. It's one of the you don't get to do anything quote unquote fun until you have, respect, self respect. You get to learn respect for your elders, how to talk to people, how to treat people. And you have to listen instead of some of these kids nowadays that they do what they want. They don't care what the parents say or anyone of authority. They teach you that there and he will get it at home. So some kids don't like to listen to their parents, but you will get that same lesson from someone who's not your parent. So you're getting it from two ends of the spectrum, which I believe it'll help out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And then just to learn those skills, like you said, self-defense, protect yourself, all that stuff is so valuable in life. And so, look, it's really cool that you're willing to share this stuff with us too, Rico. I don't know about you, Denny, but I kind of feel like we've gotten to go on the ride from when he was just a newborn. We talked to you back in March. Now he's 15 months. We're already talking about solid food. We're thinking about, a 4 or 5 year plan for martial arts and everything. I think it's really cool that you're willing to share that stuff with us. Because everybody's got their own life. Everybody's doing the same thing you are, figuring out the balance between work and life and how to get everything out of it that you want. So we appreciate you bringing us a little bit of an update on your son there. What's his name, Rico? We never asked you that last time.
Koa, Koa.
Koa. That's a pretty name. Very unique, man. Very cool. Okay, so
Don't tell that boy Koa, he gonna kick your butt. Or don't tell him Koa's a pretty name is what I meant to say.
well, okay, unique. It's true though. I'm guessing, but by you describing him, he could kick my ass right now, Rico. So,
Well, the name means warrior, so hey.
there you go. Okay, I like it, man. Awesome. So another thing that we talked about during your first interview was something very unique, and actually, it's the only time I've had anybody bring it up here on the podcast. And Denny and H&M driver Randy Duran both gave some suggestions on it, but you were a little bit concerned about the sun, man. You were fighting that sun, and the reason I want to bring this up, you were asking, are there visors, are there different ways that I can compete with the sun that are safe and that the company allows? And, one of the things I think about is during the winter months like we're in right now, the sun is so much lower in the sky. So if it's not been cloudy, you've been fighting it hard for these last few months. Talk to me about how you've dealt with that. Have you figured out anything that's helped?
Well, I did. I had I went to Walmart, got one of those install yourself tents to put on the door, and I cut it where the mirror was still visible. Like it wasn't like if you sat in the seat, the tent, you didn't have to look through the tent to see what's in the mirror.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So I did that just in case DOT wants to be, dickheads about it, but they can't say anything about it. But I think it was in the shop and they took it off. So, I haven't put it back on, but I did find some other stuff. They're like, suction cup things that you put on the window, and it basically covers your whole window except for the mirror. And they sell those on Amazon. The only thing now is I need to figure out how to put it at the top of the window facing the road. Like not covering the whole window, just like the top, maybe 1/3 of the window or 1/4 of the window, like a little strip at the top. I haven't done it yet, but I've seen it done in other trucks. No, I was like, that's where I'm at now, but it's still a progress. But battling the sun is, it's not as difficult as it once was, but I've gotten little knickknacks to combat it, little homemade things that I have that DOT
Good.
won't say anything about.
Good, man. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Denny, you were shaking your head there when I was talking about the sun low in the sky. This is obviously something that every single trucker has dealt with, and that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up again, is it being such a common problem. Everybody's got eyes, and there's a sun. It's something we don't talk about that much on this show. So any thoughts there, Denny, based on hearing Rico kind of tinker with different things to help out there?
Well, when he was talking about something to cover that top couple of inches, I got this visual of I think they're Sikhs, but the guys from India, they always have this little thing with tassels that goes all the way around the cab.
Oh, yeah.
Thought about that,
I do too.
but my challenge when I was driving was more the into the sun. When I was driving first thing in the morning and driving east, I'm looking straight at it. And two tricks that I would employ. One is, of course, you want to be able to reach the pedals, but I would jack that seat up as high as I could and still reach the pedals. It might not be as comfortable, but you're probably not going to have to reach them. So you can gain a few inches by doing that, and that gives you, hopefully the visor will catch. If that doesn't work, I'd take my cap and I'd tip that bill down, and I might even have to turn my head slightly and look out of the side of my eyes. But I mean, it's better than being totally blind. If you're staring right into that sun, you can't see anything. So, you got to do what you can do. And those would be that and sunglasses. I have good sunglasses, but obviously you probably already thought of that.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one. Now, I do have to ask you a question, Denny. Is you said you would pull the hat bill down really low, and sometimes you would look out kind of the side of it. Does that mean that you just weren't going to ever put your hat on just a little bit crooked? Because I just see Denny driving down the road with his hat kinked off to the side, maybe listening to some
I'd even
rap.
actually take it off the back of my head, put it on the top of my head, and pull that bill down where it's like kind of covering. You got to see. You can't totally block your eyes, obviously, but you can change the angle of that bill and make it work for you.
Okay. Well, it sounds like Rico, what I'm hearing from Denny here is that it's kind of a farmer's task. You got to figure it out with what you've got available to you, and there's probably 10 or 12 different solvable ways to go about it, but you just got to find which one works for you, it sounds like.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do lift my seat from time to time when the sun just finds its little angles to get in, even if you try to cover it. So I do lift my seat from time to time.
Good.
But, for the most part, it's okay. If not, then it's going to be night driving for me.
I hear you, man. That's one way to beat it.
You can always just take a hand towel, a small towel, and roll that up in the top of your window, and that's going to block that top couple of inches if you need to.
Yeah, good point there. Good point. Well, good luck with that. That sounds like an ongoing battle, but we appreciate the update. Last thing I have here, and it kind of sounds like maybe this hasn't actually risen its head as an issue yet, because you mentioned that your girl wants you at home more, obviously to help with the little guy. But you were also worried she was going to head back over to England at some time in the future, and you were kind of just wanted to know how H&M was going to work with you when you decided to go back over and visit her back overseas. But it kind of sounds like she's still here on the mainland, yeah?
Yeah, she's still here for now. That is, well, I can't really say it's not an issue because it kind of is, but the leaving part, her leaving, it hasn't risen just yet of her leaving, but I do know the me being home more is an issue, and it's an everyday issue, to be honest with you. So I'm still trying to combat that. He's all like, this is my career. The only option I have to make it work where it's in both of our favors, where we're both happy, is I have to become an owner operator, and where I can work, but I can also take the time off that I want. If I want to take a week or a week and a half off, I can do that as long as that money's there to cover all my expenses, and then go back to work as hard as I want, and work 2 or 3 months and take a month off, or however that looks when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't really created a big issue of time, but I know it's going to happen soon because she's pressing more and more every day, and I think I got gray hair show for it. So.
Just pluck those out, man. Pluck
Put
those
her
gray
on the
ones
truck,
out before they
man.
grow too long.
Bring her and Koa on the truck with you, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, Denny,
Well,
any advice there for Rico on that, maybe becoming an owner-operator
I mean,
to help
it
mitigate
wouldn't be a
this?
long term because obviously the kid's going to need school at some point. But right now, unless she's got a job that's just great, then make it an adventure. Take them out for 6 months or a year. She'd have more of appreciation for what you're doing if she spent a month or two on the truck. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I've been trying, but she's a teacher, but with her and him, I don't even think he can get on because he's only one, legally. I don't know the rules, but, he's not going to sit in the truck for 10 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
While driving. Yeah.
That's true.
That's not going to. So, when he gets older, it'll probably most likely be me and him, and he can understand. But with her, it would probably have to be like a 2-week thing, and then somehow make it back to the house where she can go back to work.
Gotcha.
Because she's not going to, so she can't really just take off like that for a couple months.
Sure.
Because of her job. So.
Well, look, I hope, Rico, that we can maybe have you back on here in another 6 or 7 months and talk to you a little bit more about this, or whenever, because I'm having fun kind of going along on the journey with you here. I do want to ask you just kind of straightforward, now that you've got quite a few months under your belt. Obviously, we talked about the specific things, but in general, compared to your last employer, how are you liking things for H&M now that you've got your feet wet, you're out there, and you're kind of in the swing of things?
H&M is a good company. My only thing is, because my goal is when I started was to be an owner operator. It's always been my goal since I left the oil field.
Mm-hmm.
I want to become an owner operator, have more freedom, but work as well, make money, enjoy life. I know I'm on the list for an owner operator. I just don't know what's going on. I've heard some, sayings here and there that are going against what I initially wanted, but it's not confirmed because I haven't spoken to anyone that's in the office to give me the actual truth. It's only what other drivers have said, and I just take that with a grain of salt. So, but other than that, the miles for me, personally, I can drive more because I have my average, 25, 26. And to me, that's not enough. I want 30,000 or more, but I understand that, there are other drivers and loads and so forth, all the other logistics of it. So I just have to play my part and, see how it goes. But, overall, I like the company.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And look, we're hoping, because listen, I know that that's a sentiment, and Denny, you could probably speak to this. A lot of drivers would probably echo that sentiment, that they'd like to be up around 3,000. And we're just kind of hoping that the market turns around and there starts to be more miles available for you guys to drive. And we have a interview with a really, really smart economist on the show here. We're trying to figure that stuff out. Talking to James and Ryan about it, we got our fingers crossed. There's new administration. There's going to be new legislation. Hopefully, by the next time we talk to you, Rico, you can get up around that 3,000 mark. I obviously am not the guy to make you that promise, but I'm pulling for you, man.
I got a thought for you, Rico. You'd have to talk to Dale or somebody, I guess, if you think it would work for you. But if you could relocate your lady and the baby to the Omaha area and be, what did you call it? What's that guy's name? The relocation asset allotment.
The asset relocation specialist. Yeah.
He's you could be one of those. You'd be home every night, man.
Yeah. There you go. It's an option there. They do have shag drivers out there in Omaha. So, it's a thing. It would take a relocation, like Denny's saying, because you probably wouldn't want to make that commute back down to Houston every night. But, I don't know. Maybe that's something you're up for.
Well, yeah, I'll put it in her ear and see what she says. But, she likes to veto everything that I say. That, so I just put a gem out there and see where it goes.
So, I compete with that sometimes with my wife too, Rico, and this is how I've kind of combated it. I'll walk up to her and be like, if I was going to go up to your girl and say it as you, I'd say, hey, remember that time you told me how cool you thought Omaha was? and just see how she responds, because she might forget and say, oh, yeah, I remember telling you that. You never know. So you just sometimes you got to throw your line in that water and see if there's any fish in it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, man.
The only thing I have to say so of is washing dishes up here. So.
I got you, Rico. Well, listen, man, I know that you're coming up here pretty quick on when you're going to have to swap out trailers, so we'll get off here and let you go. I want to say thanks again for doing this, coming on and talking about, some things in the personal life. I know it's not always the easiest stuff to talk about, but you've done great here, and I also want to clear some space for you. If you have any final thoughts for us or anything that we didn't get to, the floor is yours, my friend, if you have anything left to say.
I don't really have anything left to say for you guys. You guys are experienced drivers. The new drivers need to, I don't know what they learned in school, but, they got to find them someone experienced and get some ideas from him, or even some wisdom from him. That's more the word. They need some wisdom from that guy. Only like how they say back in the military, if you're on time, you're late.
Yep.
So always be before. If you got to drive at night, don't combat it. Just drive at night. That's the industry you're in, So, and there's less cars at night, less traffic, less accidents. And, just do what you got to do. Start complaining. And, so everyone can be happy, because there's always one person that messes it up for the masses. So just y'all get on the same page and just work. We all here to make money and be happy. So that's it.
You know what I liked about that, Denny, is that right there we started off on the podcast so many months ago talking to Rico as a first couple months driver with H&M, and as we fast forward down the road, 8-10 months, whatever it's been, the advice you just gave was exactly what we tried to do for you on the first one. Find a vet driver that you can get some info from. Find somebody that you can ask questions to. And then also I feel like a very seasoned driver thing to say. Stop complaining. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Get out there and do your job, man. Sage advice from you. And I like that, because we've now brought it full circle. You were the guy that got the advice the first time. You're the guy giving the advice the second time, man. We really appreciate you coming on the show, Rico.
No problem. I appreciate it.
All right. You drive safe out there. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man.
Great stuff there from Rico, Denny. Really cool to see that kind of come full circle. I know we just said it, but he was giving advice to some younger drivers there towards the end, and that didn't take him very long. We're still, inside that first year for him at H&M, but it sounds like he's gotten to a place where he's comfortable and not having so many questions and so many things that he's unsure of.
That's true, and I have lobbied before to set up some kind of a mentor program for that very thing, so that they don't have to call the dispatcher all the time for every stupid question, especially brand new drivers. Because in that first few weeks, they're going to have a lot of questions that, somebody's been out there with H&M for 6 months or a year or 10 years can answer those questions without having to bother dispatch. But I've grown to suspect that maybe they didn't want me giving certain advice to drivers. Maybe they want to shut my damn mouth.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thin line that you toe in telling young drivers to ask the very seasoned drivers their advice on things, because it's very likely that somebody put in 10 years behind the wheel has come up with a way to deal with something, and maybe that never got cleared. Maybe that's just the way it's been.
Yeah,
so, I only think that way because I know you this well at this point, Denny. That's all. You've given me enough of a peek behind the curtain. But that's what trucking's all about, right? Solving the problem. Like somebody was talking about a TV show the other day to me, The Walking Dead. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but really popular TV show. The whole world turns into zombies, and there's like little packs of people trying to survive. And he was talking about one of the characters being the get it done guy, the guy that it doesn't matter what we have to do. We have to survive. If that means kill zombies, we kill zombies. If that means build a fence, we build a fence. If that means get the truck running, we get the truck running. And I only say all that to say this. That, to me, is a truck driver. If I had to stereotype a truck driver in a positive way, that's how I'd stereotype him. You're the get the job done guy. It doesn't matter what it takes. You got to get it done. So roll a towel up and shove it up in your the top of your windshield so that you can block the sun. Figure it out type shit. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Exactly. I mean, do you want to spend 2 hours waiting on somebody to answer a question, or do you want to be rolling down the road making money? I'd rather just take the ass chewing rather than trying to find permission personally.
Boy, if that's not somebody that's been married a couple of different times, I don't know what is, Denny. I'm learning that lesson. I'll tell you what, man. All right. Well, it's been a great episode. This has been a lot of fun, a lot of variety. I want to thank Michaela for coming on and talking to us about the Women in Trucking Conference. Of course, want to thank and congratulate Scotty Beals. 35 years of safe driving. He's got that certificate from OOIDA. Fantastic stuff there, and a great interview, as always, with Scotty. Hats off to him. And, of course, thank you to Rico for revisiting some of the sage advice that he was given from H&M driver Randy Duran back in March. Felt like today was a great episode, Denny. Got to cover a lot of stuff and talk to a lot of people that we don't get on here too often. So I think we can pretty much put a bow on this one and wrap it up. We're getting awful close to Christmas, Denny. Have you got your Christmas shopping done?
Some of it, not all of it. But I am not the Christmas Eve running around going to the drugstore trying to find shit kind of guy. It'll be done. Okay.
All right. I trust you there. I've got one gift for my wife, and I have 7 days to buy the rest of them. Everyone wish me luck. Hopefully I'll see you post-Christmas time, all right? We do have an episode, by the way, dropping on Christmas Day. It's a very special Christmas episode. You'll want to tune into that. Denny's been hard at work bringing us some awesome stuff for that episode, so make sure to tune in next week. Or, if you're not listening to it while you're opening packages, I guess we understand, Denny. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't turn it on while you were opening your presents, but hey, beggars can't be choosers, so turn it on maybe the 26th and listen to it. We'll also have a special episode coming out on New Year's Day as well. Any final thoughts for us before we let him get out of here, Denny?
I got to go buy more presents. I'll see you later.
All right. Stay fresh, cheese bags. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.